restaurant have had multiple shootings. I don't see nobody tried to pass that or step out there saying we need to close Cheetah down. So we're not going to play that game with the black establishment. We're not going to do that. And we can't allow that to happen. And we will not forget that vote. If anybody vote on that, we will not forget that vote, because that is the heartbeat of Atlanta. Crime is rampant in every city, not just Atlanta. It's a public safety issue. If APD can't maintain their recruits, it's not on the public. That's a situation that needs to happen in-house. Recruit better. Offer better pay. We cannot allow that. And if APD are scarce for help and can't provide the protection, allow Fulton County Sheriff. Chief Labata is willing to help. We have Fulton County Police, State Trooper. Most of these closed on the state highway. True leadership is you bring other people in to help you out. If you can't do it, that's what true leadership look like. But we cannot allow this to happen. That is the heartbeat of Atlanta. You employ a lot of people. My seniors are in here. I get money from most of these nightclubs to help the seniors, because guess what? They can't come down here and get help from City Hall. So guess what? I use my nonprofit to go to a lot of these club owners and get help from them. And we go out there and play bingo, and we sponsor trips to these seniors to go to the casino. You know what I'm saying? To have a quality of life, as opposed to sitting in the senior facilities facing depression because they have nowhere to go. You guys don't do it. I'm just saying, not saying you guys, but the government don't allow that. People in the community like myself and Mike and everybody else that go to the establishment and get help to allow them to do that. So to have it where one infraction, Dustin, closed down 12 months, no, man, that's a racial thing. That's racial disparity. We can't do that. One infraction, 12 months. We can't allow that. And you guys on that board, can't nobody vote for that. One infraction, 12 months. And the mayor that's passed the task force, we're working on the task force. So to allow this to have today without giving the task force a chance to work is just not right.
Next is Shalita Robertson. Shalita Robertson. Okay. Next is Sabrina Robertson. Sabrina Robertson. Clifford Harris. Clifford Harris. Killer Mike.
Hey, good afternoon. How y'all doing? Hey, good afternoon. How y'all doing? I used to come down here with my grandmother. So when she spoke, that's the first thing she did, and people gave an exuberant good morning or good afternoon, because I'm glad to see my tax dollars are working well, and I'm honored to have my representatives in front of me. So again, good afternoon. How y'all doing? I'm happy to be here today. I've seen a lot of you guys campaigning with you, some people I've campaigned against, but one thing I've always maintained is this is Atlanta. And I'm proud to be in Atlanta, and I'm proud to be speaking before you all today. I have grown up in this city for the 47 years of life I've been here. 420 just passed. That was my birthday. I grew up, and I still maintain residence in the Collier Heights community, which is a community that was started for black people in 1946 by black people. And it was started with the intent that they were not going to beg for desegregation. They were not going to beg for favor. They were not going to beg for things that they deserved as taxpayers. So much to the point that a lot of those older houses that investors like me buy, my sister still lives there. I intend to buy. Dustin, I can wait. I don't want you to leave me. I want people to know that they built bars and nightclubs in the bottoms of their houses. And they did it because at the time it was strict segregation and things of that nature, and they wanted the dollar to stay in the Collier Heights community. Now, the people that stayed in their community were as vast and immense as my grandparents, who were a nurse and a dump truck driver, to the Russell family. And as a kid, I got to ride my bikes around all these places that would have 900 square foot houses like mine to big, huge pink mansions. And I got inspired. And I learned about turning the dollar in your own community. And I learned about local business versus corporate business. This nightclub issue scares me because I travel the world as a Grammy-winning writer and singer and dancer. That's what I do for a living. Violence is up everywhere. Los Angeles people getting robbed at the Cheesecake Factory. We're not closing the Cheesecake Factory for a year and then indefinitely. People have gotten shot at Lenox. We would never even think to do that because that's where 20% of our tax base pay taxes live. When we talk about closing Atlanta's nightlife, we talk about closing small and local-owned businesses. We're not going to close the Hard Rock. We're not going to close anything in proximity to those large hotels. I'm here for local business people. I'm here so that a young man who went to Frederick Douglass, who owns a nightclub that his father started, who employs 150 people, and another young man over in the West End has kept the club alive, and people who bartended there went on to start their own businesses. This is for places that MC Hammer and Deion Sanders came to and said the city was magic. Cultural export out of America is rap music, R&B. Atlanta is the cornerstone of that right now. The cornerstone of that is the DJ playing those records in that club. So selfishly, I'm saying let's protect my big job, and even more selfishly, let's protect these small jobs for the people that are starting these clubs, and let's figure out a better way. I'm with you in figuring it out, Dustin. I liked you on street racing. I think we can figure it out in a way that is not so punitive as to take people's businesses within 2 infractions. Thank you guys for your time. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you. Next is Carolyn Dabney. Carolyn Dabney.
Good evening. I'd like to give my time to Mike, please. Thank you.
I'd like to appreciate you, Ms. Dabney. I'd just like to return with a couple of personal stories. Again, I'm from the Collier Heights. I don't know if anyone knows that, but, well, I've already stated on record. The Collier Heights was a Wakanda of sorts. It was an all-black world. All my heroes and all my villains were black. Anybody who agreed or disagreed with my grandmother, who would bring me down here to often watch her testify, they looked like me. So I don't look at it as a racial disparity in the same way, unless we allow it to be. If we allow a club owned by people who grew up locally here, who went to these high schools, who went to these HBCUs, if we disallow them from club ownership and we disallow them police protection. My father was an Atlanta City police officer. My cousins are currently Atlanta City police officers and a chief in East Point. So I'm not here as a rapper who wants his way. I'm here as a small and local businessman saying we can figure out a better way than this punitive display. There's no other business. I own barbershops, including the one in the State Farm Arena. I have enough money to float my rent. But Lord, if I had not been able to do that, my other 2 barbershops would be under. That's what a year of closed business does. And in the meantime, we know developers are chomping at that community for cheaper and flatter rates. I do. The other thing my brilliant wife does for a living is she buys homes, flips homes, multi-unit things of that nature, and we small people on the block. How are we going to compete with huge corporations coming in, taking my grandmother's house, who was, she paid a few $100s in taxes, to anything above $2,000 because of condominiums that are coming in next to her. These clubs also, again, besides being owned by local people, if they have to close their business for 1 year, 2 years, they get bought out by a developer at a depreciated rate. They don't even get the profit of the equity that they've built for 30, 40 years. We must not, we cannot, we will not allow ourselves for fear to do the wrong thing when we can do the right thing. Multiple club owners has called me after they've seen me walk around with a couple of politicians. They say, Mike, we have been trying for years to get the city of Atlanta to allow their police to park and patrol our lots. I have a few businesses, and I don't ever remember calling the police saying, hey, could you come down and hang out for a day? But that means that I understand that these men and women understand we serve alcohol. It's a beautiful business, really, usually, and every few years some idiot decides to be an idiot. And I don't think that that idiot should decide that nightlife money cannot be made on the west side or the southwest side, or the south side. I think that we have the ability to find a better way that is not immediately punitive by closing your doors, that is not essentially putting your business out of business by saying you will be closed indefinitely. I implore the black folks that went to HBCUs to please inform my white colleagues about this. What would Morehouse and Spelman do if not after our parties we get to go to clubs that are owned by people by us that went to schools that we go to? So again, I'm just saying, let's please make the right decision, Dustin. Let's please figure out a better plan and pathway. Let's get the police back in the parking lots of the clubs.
Wynn Webb. Okay. Robinson?
Thank you. Piggyback on something Mike said. There was a situation, I think, last night at the Phoenix Sun game with Chris Paul and his family with a fan in the stadium. So when things like that happen here at Phillips Arena or the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, if someone has a concert or a Falcons game or something go on, you guys wouldn't dare bring this up with Arthur Blanks or Bernie Marcus or something like that. So we just have to be honest with ourselves and what we're doing. And like Mike said, we have to find a better way, Dustin. And I know you're not from here. You don't care about the nightlife. It's not your thing. I don't even think this is something that you would have tried to push yourself. So we don't know what's behind this, but we wouldn't do this to other entities. And we have to be careful because you may find yourself in a federal lawsuit by pushing this. You have to be very careful. And if you're going to do it, Dustin, make it for all establishment in Atlanta. All establishments, if you're going to do that. So that's the fair way to do it. It can't just be halfway. Because if this thing go down and you find yourself in a federal lawsuit, then you're going to be standing alone because whoever vote with you on this is not going to be in there. And we have to be very careful when it comes to that. Atlanta has a lot of great history. And Dustin, and I know you, and I don't think you're fully aware of the great history that we have in Atlanta in District 9, where you represent where I'm from. I go to Audubon Home, mean Dustin, for the redevelopment. I don't see you there. I don't see that large council member there for 9. You're looking at the time, you're waiting on me to go. You're not even paying attention. But I know you. I know better. You can fool the people down here. I know better. And we're not going to allow you to do this. You don't even have 10 years in Atlanta. We're not going to allow you to do this. Like your rich friends, the developers down there. If someone get killed on their property, are you going to shut that property down, that subdivision down? No, you're not going to do that because they fund your campaign fully, and you wouldn't dare do that. And you're not going to do that to black businesses in this city of Atlanta, and especially in District 9, which you have never visited yourself. Have you come on any property in District 9 and tried to talk to the owners, Dustin? No, you haven't. So I urge you to be very careful in what you're doing and think about it. Because you know in your heart of hearts it's not fair. And you know what you're doing. And you know that. And you know it's not right. Have a conversation with the black business owners first. Because you're asking black club nightlife to keep Atlanta safe when that is the mayor's job and the police department. How are you going to put that on nightlife to stay, to keep the people safe? You can't put that on them, man. It starts with APD first. If they can't keep them safe, how the hell are we going to ask the nightlife to do it?
Julia Beasley.
Good afternoon, councilors. I'll pass my time to Mike.
I'm back. How y'all doing?
Great.
I really love being a part of this city, and I'm very proud that when I look on my city council, it is a diverse crowd. So let me just reiterate that. Hip-hop, what I do for a living, singing and dancing, right? What Kilo Ali helped start out of Bowen Homes, what Mojo came to the summer program and did for us. You know, the first time I saw Luke and the 2 Live Crew and Run DMC was in the Omni. Hip-hop generates $10 billion a year. Hip-hop's capital at current time, Ms. Norwood, check this out, is Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta, Georgia. A bunch of little kids singing and dancing and joning and talking smack generate the largest artistic cultural export out of this country. And I say that as a high board member. I'm on the board of the High Museum. I like fine arts, too. I like fine arts and I like strip clubs, right? Like regular clubs, too. But I say this because I don't want us to cut off our arm when all that needs to be amputated is our pinky. That $10 billion industry is cornerstoned by the smallest clubs in this city. There would have been no bounce movement. There would have been no Little John. There would have been no Super Bowl performance had it not been for an old club called the Club Bounce on Bankhead Highway. There would never have been some of the largest records that we've heard that have produced business people. Ludacris just got awarded an award from Georgia State He got awarded his degree, and he has generated, I know, at least 150 jobs in his career. Outkast. Outkast shot their first video in front of the old, when Peaches was Club Montrese. Puff Daddy decided to shoot a video and said it had to look like Atlanta. So not only did they rap in front of the Peachtree Plaza and all these beautiful places, the salt of the earth places where working class Atlanta goes to enjoy themselves. I can't afford to go to Bankhead. The drinks are too high. If I do feel a little woozy, I'd like to call my neighbor to come around the corner and pick me up. We are talking small and local business before we get to race. Because blacks don't have the capital to access to build a Las Vegas. But we do have Atlanta. I can walk in any club in my city and know that the ownership looks like me or has been reared around me. I can go to, when I'm losing an election, go to clubs, barbershops, beauty parlors, and say, hey, we need to get out people to vote. This state turned blue in large part because of clubs. My community got the word out in the nightclubs, in the beauty parlors. I hope that we're not cutting off our arm when all we need to clip is a pinky. I appreciate you guys' time again, and thank you for your work on our behalf.
Gloria Jones.
Good afternoon. I'm going to give my time to Mike.
I used to sell furniture at Cox Furniture over on Moreland Avenue, and I didn't take no, I don't want this sofa very seriously. You were going to have to hear me till I walk out of the door, and I don't come before the committee as a bad as Ms. Norwood. I don't come stoking fire, torches in the night, saying, we're going to take you down. I'm coming to say, let's make sure we keep, Michael, supporting our small and local businesses. Let's make sure that there's a young person in Atlanta that goes to Morehouse or Clark or Spelman that can start a night like Ethiopian Vibes, that can be a parking lot attendant, much like Alex Gitwan did, and the same person that do the largest, most successful Super Bowl parties in Atlanta and Miami, and I know generates hundreds of jobs right here locally. This nightclub intervention of sorts by government does not mention the fact that we are not allowing these fine officers, and we got some great, I'm the son of an officer, we got some great officers here. Our officers know how to see situations before they start. They know how to get the trouble out of the parking lot, and they know that that car parked in that parking lot makes less violence happen because criminals ain't as dumb as they act. Let's give them the opportunity by allowing clubs to once again hire our officers, be Atlanta or Fulton County. Let's not cut off our arm when we only need to get rid of a pinky. Let's make sure that just like when we need to win a Democratic campaign, we urge the club DJs to say something about going to vote. We can be urging club DJs in conjunction with the city making a pamphlet saying, hey guys, say this, no violence guys. Don't ruin the good time by shooting. We have organic Atlanta native ways of getting messages out there when it's time to vote. We can do the exact same thing in measures of violence. Now, I don't know who's new here, who's moved here, but I know if you want to talk to Michael Julian Bond, he attended school with the people that frequent these clubs. I know that Amos knows these people, and he knows what happens after Black whatever weekend we have, that people are kept safe and they make it home safe because the club owners are not afraid of them because their children look like them. I know Ms. Norwood knows enough of us to know the Atlanta club owners, the ones that supported her and the ones that do not, still want to bet in Atlanta and will work in conjunction with her with feeding our children. We're making sure that public safety is great when they're walking back and forth from the bus stop. Atlanta can do this differently. We are called to do this differently. We are a small town operating as a big city. You do not want to become San Francisco. You do not want to become as difficult to open a business as New York. You do not want to become tyrannical as LA. Let's keep local businesses and local owners in business by allowing these fine men and women to patrol those places. Let's get with the business owners and create a comprehensive plan to increase peace throughout this, and let's make sure we keep these clubs open. All right, thank you again. I appreciate your time.
Janice Thomas.
give my spot to Duwon.
I promise you guys this is not what I plan to do today. I was at home. All of a sudden, all the club owners started calling me. And I'm like, what's they like, Michael? And I'm like, yeah, they called me Michael because they knew my mother. I'll wait till you guys stop. Miss Mary, Miss Dustin. My mother, her name was Denise. Mr. Dustin. My mother's name was Denise. And she was a business owner here, too. She went to Frederick Douglass High School and Atlanta Area Tech. So the people that know her, right, the people that were in the academy with my father, they don't call me Killer Mike. I was almost weirded out to hear that. They just call me Michael. And they say, Michael, we're afraid. And I'm like, what are you afraid for? We still haven't been able to get the police back on our lots. And I can tell you, for 2 years, one club in particular has called to say, please help us get the mayor and convince the mayor to let police come back on our lots. We don't want incidents of violence. They say, Michael, we need you to go speak today. I didn't have any plans of doing this today. But I'm here because my community called me, just like I was with my grandmother, Betty, who lived in the Collier Heights from 1952 into the time of her death. She would drag me down here as a child on her hip and talk about all things that I didn't even care about, that I didn't understand what mattered. But I understand local business now. I understand the mixed community of Collier Heights, where a church could coexist with a nightlife club, could coexist with Billy and Cynthia McKinney, could coexist with Herman Russell, could coexist with the Abernathys, could coexist with regular folks like my grandparents. We are a unique city in that regular people, and in particular black people, can move here and start clubs, restaurants, IT industries, brick and mortar businesses. Let's not lose that local appeal in the chase of safety. I would much rather have a dangerous, slightly dangerous, not as dangerous as we allow these guys in the lot, freedom, than have a safety that confines the abilities of black wealth to grow. Many of these businesses that I'm talking about are first or second or third generation businesses, but they're owned by people who look like me. So when it's time to go and take the teams to get uniforms, I don't have to beg Target or hear we're out of philanthropy season trials next year. Because it comes right from your neighbor, Dustin. It comes right from your neighbor, Miss Norwood. Right from your neighbor, Mr. Bond. Right from your neighbor, Mr. Amos. Let's keep Atlanta local business worthy. And the only way you do that is figure out ways with the business owners to help them, first by allowing these fine officers in their lot, and then figure out comprehensive ways to increase peace. And again, just thank you for the job you're doing, even though I don't agree with this one. I was with you on the street racing thing. Let's find a better way than this one that will essentially close clubs within 2 years for 2 infractions when we would never close a mall or a large department store. Thank you, guys.
Next is Eric Mathis.
I got another appointment. Thank you guys so much for hearing me. I appreciate everyone in the business.
How y'all doing today? Pretty much Michael said everything that I wanted to say, but being born and raised here in Atlanta, 46 years, been here, I've watched Atlanta grow from small Atlanta to this new Atlanta. And, you know, the nightlife is pretty much what Atlanta has. We don't have casinos. We don't have beaches. We're known for partying. We're a party city. And like Michael said, it's not the building's fault that some people want to act ignorant and do ignorant things. You know, it's almost like the gun laws. You put gun laws in place that really kind of hurts the law-abiding citizen, because the criminal don't care about a gun law because they're going to get the guns anyway. So it's like if you take a nightclub owner that just want to provide good entertainment, I'm sure all of you got a spot that you like to go to by your neighborhoods, whether it's just a kick back and get a beer, watch a football game on TV. If 2 people get into it in one of your nice spots, it spill outside, and something happens, you're not looking to shut that spot down because of these 2 guys or whatever they done or whatever done happened. You're looking to make the place safer by more security, more police. And to piggyback on what Mike said, our police department, they know how to stop situations when they happen. They just have to be there. It's easier if they're there than them trying to get there. So I just think it's unfair for certain clubs to be able to have officer presence and others not. I mean, we're not asking the city to pay for it. You can let the club owners pay the police to be there. They don't have to fall on you guys. But I'm sure most club owners will want to do whatever it takes to keep the establishment running and to provide, entertainment for our people. Some people work 80, 40, 50 hours a week. That one day off, they might want to let their hair down, have a couple drinks, go see a couple ladies, whatever the case may be. But we don't want to shut an establishment down just cause 2 infractions from people just getting into an argument or just simply disagreeing with each other. There's better ways to do stuff, and I just hope, most of the people on this board are pretty intelligent people. I just hope you guys understand that. There's more than one way to skin a cat, more than one way to kill a rat. We just got to figure out the way what makes it better to keep everything afloat. Thank you. I don't need to take all the time. Thank you.
Trevor Young.
Good afternoon, folks. How are you? It's really an honor to see you guys not on the TV and just face to face, and I appreciate being here. Not even going to take up the few minutes I have, because between Duwon and Mike, I think they kind of said it all. But just wanted to say, to put the onus on the clubs for the crime in the city is disingenuous, and I'll tell you why. There's crime everywhere, and if we're looking at the stats, Lenox Mall has had more shootings than the Blue Flame this year. That's not something we want to put on the clubs. Now, we can say, well, the clubs, have crime in the area. They may be responsible for 30% of the crime in the city. But what you got to realize is that the club owners and the clubs are not the ones committing the crime. It's the people that come there. And it's not all of them. It's just a couple bad apples. What the club is a place where people congregate. And when there's a lot of people congregating in a large area, the odds are that something may happen. As they said, if we had the ability to put police not in the clubs or not even in the parking lot, as Mike said, just on the city streets. So when the clubs can get these folks out and out away to their cars, the police can take it from there. You shouldn't leave it on the clubs to police the streets too. There should be some measure of cooperation or working together to have the city and the clubs fight the crime together. And I'm not saying that you guys aren't on the right track. It's just that it needs to be tweaked a little bit. That's all. And again, thank you for your time.
Ron Shakir.
Good afternoon. My name is Ron Shakir. I haven't been down here for a long time. I've been to over 400 meetings in the city of Atlanta. I trusted the leadership in this city for so many years. The activists, Jose and Boone, and so many people, Ms. Franklin, so many elected officials I loved and trusted so much, until I became attacked in my business and livelihood. I bought my home as a young man, put a driveway in, but when I got attacked as a businessman in Atlanta, as a vendor, a street vendor, and Shirley Franklin and Mr. Reed put the nail in that coffin where I couldn't vend no more. I knew the community. I sat at Bankhead and Hightower. I knew young people who had graduated from Douglas. Washington, and all over the city. But I started door to door in public housing, selling fish and eggs through Muhammad's program. All those programs now have left the city, and because of resources of using the police department and the courts to demonize and attack us, where they find us as vendors, we had to leave and move from one spot to another. We stood back from that. Kasim Reed knocked us completely out. And now our housing that I bought as a young man is being attacked with housing code. Things is just not justified when we see the gentrification of our city, and we're using the city and the police department being used, and the courts are being used to run us out of our housing because our house need painting. I have applied for house, put a roof on my house, and have my house painted, and denied by Wells Fargo, who I've had an account for, and one other bank, for over 30 years. And I'm glad there's a lawsuit. So the business of night business, which is entertainment in Georgia, some of the best entertainers ever come out of entertainment. James Brown being the one who probably ever lived. Night entertainment is important, but housing and what we do with our courts and what's the priority in our courts, what's the priority in the jobs of giving people looking at your house and seeing the paint peel off your house and attacking you from your house is the main thing. Everybody must choose their advocacy. Martin Luther King made a comment on that, but everybody ought to have a protest that they're willing to stand for. You are elected to stand for the communities that Atlanta has been an attraction to the whole world. And your voices right now is sending people out of their houses by using the housing code and not using the resources that have been granted to you by the city of Atlanta to help people in their houses, but you have people proud to send people to housing code and send them to jail if they can't pay the fine. I would say that entertainment community is important because black lives matter. Lives matter in entertainment. Lives matter in exchanging of merchandise. Lives matter. And you know what? We ought to send a cry
Thank you,
out.
Mr. Shakir. Your time has expired.
And that
30 seconds
cry should be to the Atlanta police to hire people and get the staffing up to where it should come up. And if we do that, maybe we can have the citizens and the priorities of the city in the right way. I apologize for speaking over, but I will say that we got to be able to make Atlanta a city for everybody and be just by everybody. Thank you.
Next is Lerone McGee.
I would like to yield my time to Brother Duwon Ross.
I want to leave with this. I'm born and raised here. I'm born in the Bourne Homes community. Proud graduate of Frederick Douglass under Dr. Hill leadership. Right? We have 2 council members that went to Douglass and graduated from Douglass, so we know. Being a young black man in Atlanta that didn't grow up around white people, because as we know there was white flight in Atlanta. The last mayoral election, I supported Mary Norwood, who's a Caucasian woman, over a black mayor. I put my reputation, my livelihood on the line. Many people didn't like that, but guess what? I didn't give a damn because I thought you would put me in position to help my people, right? So I'm okay with that, right? So like I say, it's not so much of a racial thing, but this bill I feel is. And because I'm self-made, I don't depend on government, I can support you, Ms. Norwood, and have all black folks not liking me and mad with me. I'm okay with that. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not controlled by that. I started out in this game at 10 years old by Hosea Williams. Bourne Home was the biggest voting block in Atlanta. A.D. Williams was the biggest voting block. Started out as a young man by who I think was the best to do it, Hosea Williams, because he didn't need to kiss no ass, right? I grew up idolizing your father. So I grew up idolizing a lot of black heroes in Atlanta. But I will say, at those times, it was black versus white. Blacks had to get in position. Oh, I'm 44 now. Blacks have had the title for a long time. And we sure have forgot to help our people. We have sure forgotten where we've come from. Now, Atlanta's still the best city in the world. I travel everywhere. I wouldn't trade Atlanta for nothing in the world. But we got work to do. We cannot allow someone to just move here and think they run Atlanta. We cannot do that. And it's no disrespect to you, Dustin, but it's the reality of it. Because I have black folks that live at 9 that can't get through to your office. You ain't seen them. You don't even know these women that got up here and spoke in your day time. You don't care to know, man. It's the world you come from. It's okay. I mean, you live over there on the new side of Riverwood. When you came to Atlanta, Felicia Moore put you over code enforcement, which was a little iffy. Why would a nurse be on code enforcement? Then why would a nurse even care about doing this type of stuff that you're doing, man? So what's the real agenda? I mean, we see you done built a new pool over there where you live. You're living a good life, man. You know what I'm saying? But once you leave Bowden Road and get to Bankhead, which you don't travel, you don't care to travel, because maybe you feel they didn't vote for you, so you don't care about taking care of them. But that's just flat out wrong, brother. Flat wrong, because one of your best friends is building up all that new property over there for $600,000-$700,000 over there. But right up the street where the old Kmart is and where the black folks is in poverty, you won't lift a finger to help. But you want to help shut down the only establishment that's employing black folks. That's a real oxymoron. I know I'm a little bit over, but it goes back to the police, like they said. It is the police job to protect our community, but it's your job to give them the raise and the funding to hire the best and the brightest. It starts from you guys. That's being honest. It starts from you guys. Like the same way council and the mayor vote to give themselves a raise, we should be giving the police the money to hire the best and the brightest. We let a police chief go, Chief Shields, go down to Kentucky, I think, and she got billboards in Atlanta hiring our people here. And I love Chief Shields, but she can afford to pay them a competitive wage. I'm not mad with Chief Shields that she's recruiting in Atlanta.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Going wrap up, please.
During this last election cycle, me and my friends were one of the people that helped got the young boys from Lennox. I got a call. Hey, man, you know these young boys. Can you get them from Lennox Mall? Y'all didn't do it, Dustin. Ms. Norwood, you didn't have to campaign. You ran unopposed. But I'm just saying, you didn't do it. Nobody in Bankhead couldn't get them young boys from Lennox. But I could because I have a relationship with them. So it's okay for me to be on Chief Bryant task force for the water boys to get them out from up there for being which I didn't agree with the aggressive behavior, but it still wasn't my job. It was the police job and you guys' job to do it as a leadership. Dustin, you're on public safety. Where's the leadership as opposed to just trying to pass legislation and watching the time? Where's the leadership, brother? You didn't go out to Lennox not one day to try to talk to them young boys to see how can we help? How can we replace this? Because everything is a high. So we have to replace the high if we're going to remove a high. If you're going to remove the kids from the street, then what employment opportunity are we giving them? Hold on, watch your tone. So we need to try to put in place for employment opportunity if we're going to take them from the court. Now the leadership, I don't see you at no elementary school in District 9, but you want to sit up there and pass this paperwork and put this paperwork and show your leadership. That's all I ask you. Show your leadership.
Thank you. Wrap up.
Why this is not right or wrong. Show your leadership. Don't be telling me to wrap up. Now I know I'm over.
You are 2 minutes and 16 seconds.
Okay, but watch your tone, though.
Garth Peters. Kevin Edwards.
Good afternoon. It's so surreal to be back in this council committee room. Back in 1994, when I was a young boy, at 24 years old, one of the youngest chief senior budget analysts that the city ever had, I got a great opportunity to work with people like Councilman Bond, Councilman Boone. I ran an election with in 2006, ran for city council. But I left City Hall in 2001 with aspirations of being a millionaire. You know, I started working here straight out of college as an entry-level accountant. And I said, man, I love Atlanta. I want to be here forever. Left, started construction business. Construction business boomed, made a lot of money from 2001 to 2008. And the construction industry crashed. I looked for my new venture, which is the nightclub industry. Right now, I'm probably the second or maybe first largest nightclub owner, restaurant guy from a minority standpoint. I own several restaurants, Virginia Highlands, Midtown, Underground Atlanta, Buckhead coming soon. But this nightlife industry problem we're having is not going to be solved by all this bickering. I met with the mayor probably about 3 weeks ago to talk about what needs to happen. And I think it's got to be education on both parts, because I don't think everybody on city council understand the whole alcohol code, the liquor license process. You know, I even brought it up to the mayor. I was like, Mayor, you know, I've been doing this for 11 years, but I don't think everybody understands. Just little things like we talk about restaurants wanting to be nightclubs, but if you look in the application, it's a box you check, and it says a restaurant with customer dancing and live entertainment. And the mayor, he looked, I pulled it up for him. I showed him, because I know what goes on in city government, and I know what goes on in the nightlife. And right now, you know, you're not allowing police officers at adult entertainment, but I employ 12 police officers at my biggest establishment, and we never have a problem. And when I talked to the mayor, I asked the mayor, I said, you know, nightclub and strip clubs are different, but strip clubs are more volatile. Why don't you let those people work at strip clubs? You know, and that's been on the record since back in Maynard Jackson days, that they weren't allowed, right after the Gold Club scandal. I don't know if a lot of y'all were around for the Gold Club scandal, but right after that, that's when they stopped letting officers work at strip clubs. You know, police are deterrents. You know, it's not going to be the be-all, end-all, but when a patron that want to do something that's not right, they see those badges and they see those officers, they see the biggest gang in Atlanta, it makes a difference. When my patrons walk out, and if they had any problems inside, and they walk outside, and they see those 12 officers, those 2 cars standing there with the lights on, it deters them from doing anything.
Want to wrap up your comments, Mr. Edwards?
So what I think needs to happen is, I think this paper needs to be held. I think we need to get in the room and try to have more education on what's going on. I think that everyone that's involved just really needs to know what's going on with the lay of the land and the law of the alcohol code. And with that being said, I please implore you guys to just hold this paper, let the mayor continue to do what he's doing with his task force, let people start getting in the room together and just making sense out of all of this. Thank you.
Thank you. And a few things that I would like to address before we move into presentations, because there's going to be presentations from people that can address these specifically, is number one, this legislation that's been spoken to does not specifically apply to strip clubs, nor to nightclubs, or any kind of nightlife establishment. It is a revision of the citywide nuisance code, which can be applied to a house, a gas station, a liquor store, a hotel, anything. Number two, it is not, you don't get to go to court and get your business shut down for what many commented as one infraction. You have to have multiple infractions of shootings, homicides, etc., before you even get a citation for a nuisance violation to go to municipal court. So you could have had 5, 6, 7 shootings at a property, not necessarily a nightclub again, or a strip club, etc., before you even get your first nuisance citation. And same thing goes for the second. You're not going to get cited for a second nuisance within 24 months unless you have multiple other what we're being called infractions. You have to go to court because you've had multiple incidences at a property, and you have to be convicted in a court of law to get shut down. And number three, which we have had these conversations earlier this year that I want Assistant Chief Shearbaum to address, is I have advocated, the mayor has advocated for allowing APD officers to work at nightclubs, strip clubs, which was an archaic decision from the 90s that was still intact. If you could please start off, Assistant Chief, with that, what the status of that is, because I agree with the commenters that that should be allowed. Councilmember Overstreet.
I'm glad you brought that up, Councilmember Chair Hillis, because I do have quite a few comments about the legislation, but I will start with I'll wait until we bring the legislation up to
I don't
have
want to get
those
too deep in
comments.
the legislation. I just want to bring those key points up because they're going to be presenting.
So I want to just make sure, though, that I get this on record now, because I don't know how long you all are going to be here, and this is to the people that have come in, taking your time to come in to express your beliefs about the legislation and asking for common sense, fair practices from the city. Want you to know that I've been asking for APD to be allowed in the parking lots and on the premises in any way, even in a probationary way. I've asked for the last 4 years for that. So I do believe that we are at a place where we need to seriously enact that, like it needs to happen. And because I think that the blue lights really do matter in this case. That's an outdated reason why they are not allowed in just one sector of nightlife. They're allowed everywhere else. And so it's really not fair, because the owners have come to me for years now, years and years, asking for police protection or to pay police off duty, just like every other establishment is allowed to do so. And so I advocate for that as well.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Bond, and then we do have one more public speaker on paper that's signed up late. Councilmember Bond.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. And this is, again, like Ms. Overstreet, want to address this while we still have the audience here who came out to be concerned about it. I've already asked the